Throughout the campaign, if you watch legacy news loops like CBC or CTV, you're inevitably going to hear a pundit or a lobbyist, somebody that's on a political talk show, say that the conservatives should stop talking about affordability, that it's crazy for conservatives to be talking about affordability. The liberals aren't talking about affordability. Why would the conservatives talk about affordability? Well, the main reason conservatives are talking about affordability and our plan to make life more affordable in this campaign is because the cost of living is the top ballot issue for tens of millions of Canadians. And I'm just in my campaign office right now. Pardon the mess, pardon my voice. I'm still struggling with a little bit of a cold here, but the thing that I want to let you guys know is that I've been on the doors all day, I've been talking to constituents, and door after door after door, affordability comes up as a main concern. Now today, there was actually some startling news that came out of Statistics Canada that proves this point, that affordability is a big problem in Canada. So the Consumer Price Index data that was released this morning says that food prices are rocketing upwards. They've surged by over 3.2% in the last year. And in the last month alone, food inflation has increased by 1.9 percentage points in the largest monthly jump in decades. Many of you know this. Of course you know this. When you go to the grocery store, it's, I was just at the grocery store the other day, and I didn't even buy any meat, and it was $100 for one bag of basic groceries. It was crazy. So some of the drill down issues in there are from the CPI data. Fresh or frozen meat has increased in cost by nearly 10% in the last year, with beef especially being up almost 13%, eggs are up 5.2%, and fresh fruit by 5.6%. So when I hear, and you can hear the busy campaign office in the background here, when I hear liberal lobbyists and pundits on CBC going, well, the conservatives shouldn't be talking about affordability, it's because they don't want to have the liberals' record of failure of the last 10 years litigated during this campaign, right? The question is, are you better off after 10 years of the liberals? Is life more affordable for you? And, the Consumer Price Index data today actually shows that that's not the case. This is why it's so important for the liberals to be opposed in this election. And, I'm getting really strong support in my community for that. People can't believe that the liberals even have the gall to run in this election, especially knowing that it was their deficit spending that drove inflation up. It was their taxation that drove inflation up, and conservatives have a way to drive that down. We're going to cut income tax. We have a whole job creation, economy growing program that will help make life more affordable. Now, the thing is, some people say, well, what about Mark Carney in this? Mark Carney was one of the architects of this inflationary policy. He was brought on to be Justin Trudeau's COVID advisor in 2020. And during that time, what happened? Justin Trudeau, it was even before COVID, but the Liberals really ramped up deficit spending. We saw so much waste, the We Charity scandal, the Arrive scam app, so many procurement scandals that we didn't even get to scrape the iceberg of before Parliament was prorogued by the Liberals last year, right? So Mark Carney had his hands in this. He was appointed as the Liberals' senior economic advisor last fall, just when the Liberals started talking about capital gains tax increases, right? Mark Carney's even said during the campaign, or just right before it, that he plans to increase taxes on critical industries like steel. And the other thing is that Mark Carney, when it comes to cost of living, outside of his disastrous record with the Liberals over the last 10 years, he's got a lot of credibility problems as well, too. It's tough to believe anything he said. You guys watched me talk here about how the Liberals went as far as to run a false flag operation at a conservative conference last weekend to try and get fake news media on a story that they tried to plant there with these buttons. If you want to scroll through my media or my social media feed, you can read all about that. But it's not just that. Mark Carney, a few things that he did. He said that he would keep Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines Act, and then he says that he wants to have a strong Canada. Well, how can we build our sovereignty if he doesn't want to build pipelines and keep us reliant on the United States? As I said, he worked as the Liberal senior economic advisor in 2020 and beyond. He was a big part of these inflationary deficits that caused these problems. And also he had other roles, like at the UN, where he advocated for carbon taxation for over a decade, right? The other thing is that's kind of sus about Mark Carney is that he helped move his big multi-billion-dollar company's headquarters from Toronto to New York after the Americans threatened tariffs on us. And he also, while he was the board chair, helped that company avoid over $5 billion of Canadian taxes by using offshore tax havens. The other thing is he's kept and promoted most of Justin Trudeau's ministry and his senior staff, people like Marco Mendicino, Jerry Butts. Like, these are David Lametti. These are people who put forward the censorship bill. Marco Mendicino was one of these guys that joked about putting tanks on the street in January or February 2022. This is, so all of this to say is that with affordability being such a big issue, the Liberals don't deserve another 4 years. It's their disastrous policies that got us to this point. You have a leader in Mark Carney, whose credibility is at stake because of his role in this and because of his unanswered questions on some of his corporate dealings. And then you have a Conservative Party that has a positive, hopeful plan, that has material, concrete results, that is going to make plans that are going to make your life more affordable, like that income tax reduction and more. So folks, share this video because it's hard to punch through the legacy media right now. We know the CBC is biased because their, executive bonuses depend on the Liberals getting re-elected and giving them hundreds of millions of dollars more to pay their executive bonuses out. So this is why it's so important to share these videos. Help me get the word out. Subscribe to this channel. And just, if you're talking to anybody in this election, particularly over this upcoming holiday weekend, just ask them, is life more affordable for you after 10 years of the Liberals? With honesty and a pure heart. It's because it's not. These numbers that came out of Stats Canada today, guys, they're rough. And everybody in my community is feeling that. And it's not just food too, it's obviously rent and more. I'm gonna get back out on the doors. Working hard for you. Please share this video. Have a great day.